Well, thank you very much for joining this virtual town hall. We've had a virtual town hall before. We've had a virtual cafe, and this is another one in that ongoing series. The last 4 weeks have been difficult. They've been filled with anxiety, but I think that we also must be proud of how we've handled things. Crises define people, they define institutions, they define organizations. And in a very short period, we were able to take classes online. We were able to see to it that the education of our students continued. We were able to rapidly come up with solutions for a circumstance that we had never encountered. We haven't encountered it in our lifetimes, and our parents haven't encountered it in their lifetimes. It was a completely alien problem. Perhaps society should have anticipated it, but we did not. But these pivots have produced remarkable innovation. Students are now taking their exams. They're going to be assessed. They will move on. The virus is controlling our lives. We're not in control. We've lost control. But the way we gain control bit by bit is by attacking the virus. And so we're doing it through social distancing. We stopped face-to-face classes. We did not want the virus to spread. We're making enormous research pivots. We are trying to make the world a better place. We are trying to fulfill our mission. And so today, I'm joined by the associate deans in engineering who are going to help us answer some questions. But first, let me go to them, because I've given you the broad sweep of how we are trying to take control away from the virus bit by bit, recognizing that we will not have total control until there's a vaccine or a magic pill therapy, and that might be months, 18, 24 months in the future. So we have to plan for the interim. But our associate deans will also inform us how we've been planning, how we've been thinking, and the remarkable innovation accomplishments that we've already had. I'll go first to our Associate Dean for Research, Innovation, and External Affairs, John Preston. So John, how has this been a challenge? And how has our community responded in terms of research, in terms of innovation, in terms of making connections with the communities that we live in and the communities that we serve?
All right, thank you, Ishwar, for a chance to speak to this. It's been really an honor to be heading up the effort that's come out of McMaster Engineering since the crisis became fully apparent to us some 3.5 weeks ago. Very quickly, we had people who were doing the things that we were being asked to do by our government. Those include working to reestablish the supply chain. But we've now gone well beyond that. So we've built ventilators at McMaster. We've collaborated with the companies that are manufacturing the ventilators, and we've been trying to be of assistance in terms of locating parts and items that are needed for those ventilator systems. We've worked with producing personal protective equipment for our frontline healthcare workers. Our approach to that was to form a very close, and I'll call it a community, Fireball family, extended out and reached out to the healthcare workers, both at St. Joseph's and also at Hamilton Health Sciences. And they've become part of our team. They're in fact literally embedded within our team environments when we work on these projects. We've also reached out to the community, to manufacturers, both big and small, who may be able to contribute in terms of shifting their manufacturing capabilities. And you'll have heard of some of these in the news, perhaps. Woodbridge Group, but also Nico Fabric in Hamilton. You'll be hearing about more of those. So there are now probably 8 or 9 companies that are working with McMaster Engineering, trying to develop personal protective equipment. We're now broadening our scope, not just thinking of delivering to the healthcare workers in the ECUs, but also long-term care facilities and other crucial priorities that are identified, and we're actually beginning to discuss with the city to help us to understand what those priorities should be. That doesn't mean that we're stopping there. There's also all kinds of innovative ideas that are coming out. An antiviral wrap, which literally will kill the virus when it lands on it. New testing approaches that can be faster and more effective. And information challenges, both in terms of being able to tell people if you've been near somebody who's been exposed, but also to help healthcare workers manage the load. So there's been a whole array of programs that have taken place, and I'm only just touching a glimmer of those. I think we'll be moving to a much more public phase in the near future. And so as this effort has expanded, there are now more than 100 people working on these projects, but we actually have over 100 people who are volunteering to help us from the community. And so we're looking to try to harness that tremendous power and keep accelerating. The solution to this is to innovate our way out of it. If you want some insight into how that may happen, those will be innovations that are both profound and that are minor. So if you look at a current grocery store situation, they've gone from 1 mode of delivery, you go in and buy your groceries, to 3, where they can put it into your trunk, deliver it to your home, or you can go into the store. They've changed the setups inside, they've retrained their staff. That's going to be what society looks like post-COVID. It's going to be a much more innovative place, and we're going to have to come up with solutions, and practical solutions and profound solutions. And we're working on both of those.
John, there are many undergraduate students who are listening in, and I was struck by the story of the Amanda mask, and I understand that it's now an invention disclosure. Can you quickly tell our undergraduates about how one of them has really confronted the virus and said, well, this is what I'm going to do?
So the Amanda mask, and unfortunately Amanda had to change her last name to Mask so that the branding worked, came out of a student challenge. So I asked Professor Fang if he would prepare a challenge to go out to students. And it was really about the discomfort. I think many will have seen the awful bruising that the emergency care workers have after a 12-hour shift or multiple 12-hour shifts wearing these N95 respirators. So the idea was, could we come up with something that both provided a better seal to the face, but was also more comfortable? And Amanda rose to that challenge and submitted a really interesting 3-page report. She's now working with a team of faculty and healthcare workers from St. Joe's to try to see if we can bring that mask to fruition. If you're looking for ideas that you might want to work on that are a little bit outside of the box, I'm going to try to put up a COVID challenge at least a couple times a week on our COVID site within engineering. Of course, I would be very interested in hearing about additional challenges. If you have an idea of a challenge that should be put forward, and we'll just keep crowdsourcing these using the tremendous creativity of our student base to try to come up with these solutions. And as I said, some solutions will be need an enormous amount of scientific research. Others just require a really fresh insight as to how you might accomplish something.
Let's move on to our Associate Dean Academic. Steve, this has been an exhausting time for you, but also, I think, a time of accomplishment. You've been a big advocate for undergraduate students. You've pushed policies through the faculty and through the university. And in this time of crisis, I think that what we've also shown is that we can't have a my way or the highway approach, that there are multiple constituencies, they have different expectations. Some students would like a pass, no credit option, whereas others would like to have their grades recorded. And so we had to quickly come up with these compromises. And that's how democracy works, right? So I think you really epitomized in many ways the working of democracy, the making of policy, taking multiple constituencies into mind. Tell us about your work. I mean, I know you've been putting in 12, 14-hour days, and it's been a month. It hasn't let up, and you know, there's a weekend coming up, but you're going to be working through it. So talk to us about your challenges, but also about the sense of accomplishment, because I think one of the stories that I see in your work is that we're not going to roll over. We're just going to keep trying, and we're going to just, you know, we're not going to let this sucker beat us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ishwar. I mean, you're right. It is a difficult time for me personally as a father with school-age children, and I know some staff listening and faculty members and some students indeed may have young children at home that they're trying to educate. So personally, been quite a challenge, but no more so difficult than the challenge for our students, particularly our undergraduate students, those in first year and level 2 and in all the levels, transitioning to a new mode of education. I want to thank them for their resilience. I want to thank them for their patience, for sticking with us. You're right, we didn't let the virus beat us, but you know, that shouldn't be really a surprise. That's the making of a McMaster engineer, isn't it? Isn't that what we're all in it for? So it has been difficult. We have done our best to maintain academic standards, to maintain our academic programs, and to support our students. Staff has gone above and beyond in moving the online formats to be there for the students, to be there for you with your questions, to be there to mentor you, to give you the information so you can make those decisions that are right for you. Faculty have worked incredibly hard, and a great shout out to all my faculty colleagues who have worked incredibly hard to continue their educational mission, right? They're calling to educate the next generation of engineers, to move to an online format, a new format for all of us, for most of us in any case. And thanks to the students who have been incredibly supportive, understanding, who have participated, as John mentioned, in our research enterprise, who have not given up, and who have really epitomized what it means to be an engineer, and more so what a McMaster engineer is. So I am grateful, though difficult times are here, I am grateful to be part of this fantastic Fireball family.
So I have one observation. You know, I've always heard that students don't like morning classes, that 8:30 is not a good time, or 9:30 for that matter. There are 110 people watching right now. But I have a question before I go on to Mike Thompson. So you're supporting, in this time of isolation and quarantine, you're supporting a COVID-19 haircut. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. Well, drastic times call for drastic measures. So indeed, we've as a family struggled to make the children have as rich an experience as possible. So this is one of my kids' projects, as you see on my head. So I'm sure everyone is going through similar stories. You see them on the news, and we hear them shared on our engineering news channels as well, of interesting stories of resilience during this time.
I'm going to move on now to our Associate Dean for Graduate Studies, Mike Thompson. And Mike, you've been a passionate advocate for graduate students. They've been reaching out to you. And I think that you've been able to do both normal business in terms of pushing forth projects that we would have pushed forth in any case in non-COVID times, but also pushed forth policies and reactions to COVID that benefit graduate students. So talk to us a little bit about your challenges and, you know, tell us about the sense of accomplishment you have because you met those challenges.
Well, thank you, Ishwar. Yeah, I think right now the graduate student population is obviously a little bit anxious about what has transpired over the last little bit. Many of our students are research oriented students, as you are aware, and they have really, I'm not going to say definitely not embraced this new circumstance, but they have been very accommodating. They have shifted to online meetings with all of their professors, their supervisors, and many of them have reached out to me more or less just to kind of ask questions about what should we expect for our future. But they have all been very supportive overall, and that's been wonderful to read. Everyone is just basically trying to figure out what this summer is going to look like for them, and potentially what the fall is going to be for us. So my group, I've been working with all of the graduate administrators in our departments, as well as over at the School of Graduate Studies. We've been trying to make sure that our new cohort, the new graduate students who want to join our community can get here hopefully as easily as possible in this kind of difficult time when language testing centers are no longer open, where visas are a bit of a confusing ordeal because even the immigration officers are not entirely sure what they can tell people when they're going to be able to come over to Canada. So we have been working very closely with immigration. We've been working very closely with the Ontario government, with the federal government, and we've been reaching out to consulates around the world to try to give everybody a sense that McMaster is ready to take everybody in September. We believe very strongly that whatever our circumstances look like in September, that we can accommodate a new cohort of students, and that we can basically get them engaged into our research mission as hopefully without too much disruption. And that's really where I'm seeing right now. Most of our supervisors have been fantastic. They've shifted to online meetings with their students 2-3 times a week, I'm hearing. Everybody is getting used to this weird array of pictures on their screen, and graduate students have been fantastic for that. In fact, I've heard of a number of graduate students teaching supervisors how to navigate this bewildering array of Zoom and MS Team and everything. So I see a shifted community, but I see the same activity, the same love for innovation right now. And I know that many of our graduate students are also trying right now to help out Dr. Preston and all of the initiatives that he's kind of listed so far. So my thanks to everybody that is on this call, because you have definitely stepped up for this challenge and made it very clear that McMaster is truly an innovative university.
Mike, one quick question. Of all the people in the little squares and rectangles right now, you're the best coiffed. So what is your haircut secret?
I object to that statement. I do not support that.
All right, we'll move on then. Steve, the burning question seems to be about co-op. So there's mandatory co-op in some programs, and then there's optional co-op in others. And it seems like some students are going to be able to do remote co-op, but others have seen their co-op opportunities taken away, canceled. Society is in a big economic crisis. What is our response to co-op, and how is this going to influence students' academic progression?
Yeah, thank you. You're right, Ishwar. You've mentioned that co-op is integral to a large number of our students, and we're not immune to these pressures that are happening in the world today. You also touched upon the fact that they're highly individualized. So some students can do remote co-op, some cannot. Some have co-op as a degree requirement. So I'm talking to our BTech students directly now. And I understand that causes a huge amount of apprehension. I mean, all of our students are apprehensive, but I would submit that co-op students are doubly apprehensive, right? Both their academic mission, both their academic progress has been changed radically. And in many cases, their work terms have been changed radically. So the message that I want to get across to you is, yes, we are here to support you. We have not abandoned you. We are here. Your co-op coordinators, your academic advisors are here, and they're available. They're an email, they're a video chat away for you to access. In particular, about our co-op requirements. So the co-op requirement is not a Faculty of Engineering requirement. To get a co-op designation, you need to have 12 months of approved work experience. As I mentioned in our BTech programs, this co-op is a requirement to obtain your degree it's a condition, it's a degree requirement. So what can we do, especially for BTech students that are in their ultimate year, their final year, that have been displaced from work terms, whose work terms in the summer have been canceled? We've worked with colleagues across campus in the university. Again, it's not an engineering requirement, but a university requirement. And for those students, for those BTech students in particular, that are hampered in getting the 12-month requirement in their final year, we will reduce that requirement. We've been given the permission to reduce that requirement to 8 months. However, we're cognizant that all of our co-op students are impacted. All of them are impacted, and they're in highly individualized scenarios. I encourage all of them to reach out to their co-op coordinators and to their academic advisors. Please contact them. We will be flexible. We will support you. Both our BEng, Comp Sci, BTech students, all of our students, our biomed students, you're all our students. We will support you. Please contact us, and we will work through this together.
So you've got this Fireball family message, Steve, and I think it's a message that John alluded to and that I also allude to. I just want everyone to know that I am drinking water from a branded Fireball family glass because we are all living and breathing Fireball family. But Steve, another question. Some students are perplexed that why couldn't we have just finished the term, let's say on March 13th, taken those marks to date? Why did we elongate the term and then have finals and so on? And here, I suppose we chose to not use the my way or the highway approach. It was a consultation. We had many students weighing in with a number of factors. Can you just quickly walk us through that process of making that decision? Yeah,
again, that's right, Ishwar. So the choice on how to record your grade. So I guess we're referring in particular to for this term, the new policy that's been communicated to everyone of the ability to take a numeric grade or to convert that grade to a non-numeric format, that is a pass or NC, non-complete. So this is not a Faculty of Engineering decision. In particular, it was a university decision. And you can appreciate that having a one-size-fits-all solution for all programs and all students would be very difficult. Some students do well in exams, some students do not do well in exams. Some programs, such as accredited programs, have an expectation of exams. And so our approach was different, as you alluded to, Ishwar. Our approach was to provide students with a choice, to put the careers, to put the way in which marks will be recorded into their hands. So you can choose. Changing them into a non-numeric format has its implications, has its consequences. So we've given you flexibility, but we haven't left you without information in order for you to make the right decision for you. You are the right people to decide what is the right thing for you at this time. I implore you, if you have any questions or want to change your mark to a non-numeric grade, the website will be open on Monday, I've just been told. And I implore you, please reach out to your academic advisors. They're available to you over video chat. If you want to make an appointment, please email them at engserve@mcmaster.ca. They will meet with you any day of the week, 5 days a week during business hours. They will give you the information and help you get the right information to make a decision that sits best for you.
One of the other burning questions is about research. When can labs reopen? At the top of the The town hall, I mentioned, we're not in control. The virus is in control. But we've taken certain steps to confront the virus, like social distancing and so on. And right now, we are also confined to working within provincial guidelines. The province says that certain kinds of essential work can be done. And the university has taken that to mean essential COVID-19 research. And that there cannot be a place where more than 5 individuals can meet and commingle and so on. So there are restrictions, but even so, for the COVID-19 work, John, you've developed some research protocols, and they are going to be circulated quite widely. Can you talk a bit about that? And can you talk about our plans for reopening the labs? I know it's not our decision. It's a national decision. It's a provincial decision, and then it's a university-wide decision. But just to give a sense of where we are at and that we are ready to turn on a dime, I think that the message I'd like to give out is we're constrained right now because of the virus, because of social distancing policies, because of the descriptions of essential work. But we are prepared to turn on a dime, innovate, and open the lab. So maybe shed some light on the research protocols that are going to be going out to faculty and how we're going to reopen when we are allowed to.
Sure. So the first issue was in developing the protocols. And actually, I want to give a shout out to one of our faculty members, Leila Salamani, whose personal lab protocols formed the original basis for which we started to build off of. The first piece was, okay, if we're going to continue to have people spending some time on campus, we wanted to be absolutely certain that we were doing everything that we could in order to keep them safe. So that was the first and foremost piece of it. But as things have gone on, and as the situation with COVID-19 has become clearer, and I'll admit, I listened to the experts, but I had this idea in the back of my head that, okay, if we all just stay home for 2 weeks, then it's all gone, and we'll be able to go back to life as it was before COVID-19. It's now clear it's not going to be that quick. We're going to manage this. We're going to knock down the number of cases. We're going to knock them down out of certain communities altogether, but it's still going to be, we still have to manage when they may pop up. And so I alluded to the grocery store example as a case where at the start of the pandemic, a grocery store was one of the worst places to go because you had a mix of people, you had crowds, you had people handling things, and then other people picking them up and handling it. And now it's gone to something that seems to be relatively safe. We're not hearing about enormous number of outbreaks happening, and they did it while delivering the food that we all require. I mean, we've lost a lot of convenience, they've lost a lot of productivity, but they've made it work. I think we need those innovations, big and small, inside of how we do our operations. And we're going to have to do that as a university. And I think it's our role as a university to become an exemplar for society at large. We understand the risk maybe better than some. We have some of the, certainly some of our students have an understanding of the nature of the virus, of the nature of a pandemic. Many of you will have been picking up knowledge very, very quickly about this. We also have the engineering know-how to figure things out. And these could be, I mentioned a few, these could be scheduling apps. So we work now on our research teams to ensure that we never exceed within a room having too many people there that they would come within 2 meters of each other. So we have extensive, and right now we're doing that really in a kind of clumsy way. You can imagine innovating and figuring out more elegant ways that we're able to do that. So I would invite everybody to start thinking about how we're going to tackle this, how we're going to open up again. How when we open up, we're going to be operating a little bit differently, a little bit more aware. And if in the future there is another flare-up, then we'll be able to have a graduated approach to shut it down rather than what we've had to do this time, which is a complete shutdown.
Mike, this has been a pause in the research of some students at least, maybe many. Those reports are still trickling in. Some graduate students have been able to take their research remotely, work on simulations, mathematical analyses, but there's a very large degree of lab work or applications work that's done in McMaster Engineering. I mean, we are amongst Canadian universities, we have one of the highest participation rates of industry in our projects. I mean, every year there's about $10 million of industry research, which is then leveraged with provincial and federal research. So we're making up about 20 million, almost half of our $45 million portfolio. So for those students whose research may have stopped and their research is impacted, we've been talking about ways to help them, move them through. So I think it'd be helpful if you can tell those students, that constituency, how we've been thinking about them very proactively, having them top of mind and developing some methods and policies.
Okay, I don't think that I would say that we've really paused research for most of our students, but for sure we are asking upon our students to shift in their focus and to work with their supervisors in order to think differently. For the students that are very research oriented in terms of experimental work, yes, everybody has been asked now to kind of rethink how can they basically capitalize upon this time period in order to stay productive. I don't think that we are in any way encouraging people to just sort of go to sleep, go home, and become Netflix junkies for the next 2 months. What we're trying to basically ask everybody is to think a little bit differently about what components they need in order to complete their degrees. I really do not believe that there should be any delay in graduation for any of our graduate students going forward. We will obviously work with faculty members and work with departments for those that are impacted right now in terms of funding, but we are adamant that basically that scholarships continue, that students stay productive, that they shift to new learning opportunities. I'll give you an example right now. I would say more than 80% of my graduate students are now holed up learning about different AI techniques in order to apply them to their research. So it's a shift in their research, but not a great shift in their research. When they get back to the lab, they're going to apply these tools that they've been playing around with right now, and they are in a better place to be able to then start experimental work again because they know the data that they need going forward. For some students, we're encouraging them to take advantage of this time frame to get their supervisory committee meetings done. If a comprehensive is up and coming for them, this is a fantastic opportunity because their supervisor can't go anywhere. There can't be a vacation. They can't do anything. So let's try to use this time advantageously, and then we are. I think we're shifting buckets, and that's the way that I'm trying to encourage people. Don't treat this as a downtime. Just treat it as a challenge to innovate in a new direction in your research. And for the students that are course-based, we're going to see several virtual courses being offered over the summer through the School of Engineering Practice, as well as a number of departments have expressed an interest in offering courses to their graduate students to keep them productive. So things that might have happened in the fall are going to happen in the summertime too. So I think there's a lot of activity. We want to make sure that it's everybody doesn't take this as a time for complacency.
Very good, Mike. I'm struck by the approach that you've taken. So in my research group, we've been having these machine learning 101 sessions. One of our graduate students has been offering them, and this week we are having machine learning 201 because we've actually graduated from first year in a matter of a couple of weeks, and now we're in second year, and I'm looking forward to going to 301 and 401 then. There are a few other questions about how we are preparing for the fall term and about tuition and fees. If students go to the COVID-19 website of the university, what they will see is something that was posted very recently about athletics and recreation fees, because those facilities are closed. And so there's been an adjustment of those fees. Students can ask for either repayment or they can ask for a credit that will be applied to their tuition and fees later on. So the universities are responding, the university, MAC, is responding in real time, and so is the faculty. So from the question about co-op that came up, I've now learned very rapidly that there'll be an email sent out by the end of the day regarding graduation requirements by our Co-op and Career Services office. So this sort of engagement, letting us know what you're anxious about, is helpful. We are working overtime, developing plans, developing policies, and sometimes because we are sprinting so hard, we may find it difficult to stop and really communicate as effectively as we should be. And if you're not, let us know, and we'll get the information to you. We want to do this in a very transparent manner. About the plans for fall 2020, these are very ambitious. We're planning to do face-to-face teaching, but we're also planning for every course to be taught either online or in a virtual classroom. A virtual classroom is a classroom where the lectures are taught synchronously. You know, there's a lecture time, you show up, and instead of being in a classroom, it's essentially in these little windows on your laptop or iPad, your tablet, Android device, and so on. Online courses are courses that are asynchronous. They're already taped, they have multimedia, and they have information, and you essentially accomplish them at a self-paced basis. So we are planning for both of these scenarios, face-to-face teaching and virtual teaching and learning. As I mentioned, we don't control this outcome. The virus controls this outcome. So it depends on where we are in September. We want to go ahead and we want to engage in face-to-face teaching, but there may be a scenario that there may be a second wave of the pandemic, or the pandemic might not have been controlled. I'll give you an example. There are engineers on this call, right, in this virtual town hall. If every person goes out and infects 3 people, let's say, so that's an infection rate of 1.03, and those 3 people go out and infect 3 other people, 1.03 is actually a very small number. But 1.03 to the power of 100 becomes a very, very large number. And 1.03 to the power of 1,000 becomes a very large number. So that's essentially, from an engineering sense, why we have to plan for different scenarios. We've planned for the pivot. The pivot is the largest transformation of teaching and learning in the faculty's history. And the pivot is not only about first year, it's about enlarged engagement with students. It's about courses in second, third year that are going to be experiential based. Those courses will go ahead. Even the first year course, 1P13, a very large course, which consists of 5 projects. We've already virtualized 60% of that course. And the other 40% will be virtualized over the summer as well. Now, there are benefits to doing this. Even if we go towards face-to-face teaching, if we have virtualized environments and if we have online modules, these could be enrichment modules. They could be modules we could put up for the future. If students were ill, they couldn't attend class. They could then, while they were recovering, catch up with their peers. We don't know what's going to happen in fall. We're planning, and we're being smart, I think, about the planning. We can't anticipate the various challenges that will come up. It might well be that we might not be allowed on campus in large numbers. We could only be allowed on campus in small numbers. And our team is planning, for instance, for 7-day labs, that there may be virtual teaching, but a combination of labs on campus, which only accommodate very, very few students with social distancing. Steve, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, of course. I mean, you're right. We could go down the rabbit hole and go through all sorts of different scenarios, and we're not sure what's going to happen. But I just want to make it clear that we're planning for every eventuality, for students that are in person, for students that are going to be virtual. I think what you said is very powerful, Ishwar. What you said is students may be ill. There may be those that may be recovering from COVID or from other illnesses, even if we are partially face-to-face or with distancing protocols. So some of these online initiatives will be very important. Again, your health, your safety is our paramount concern. And we will follow all guidelines that the health authorities will provide to us. But we are planning for every possible eventuality to ensure that your academic progress and your academic success is maintained.
Now, here's a question for all 3 of you, because you're all professors, so it's not just your domains. The question is one about academic integrity, and there's a reality. Most students are honest. But there's a reality that some sometimes slip up in that commitment to honesty. And because we pivoted so fast, we haven't really planned in a very thoughtful way over the years about proctoring exams online, having assessments in virtualization. And I think that one of the answers that I have, but I leave it to you to answer these authentically and answer them in the sense that you think, not in the sense that others might want to hear. My thought is that we're going to have to, over the summer, rethink assessments, that maybe the classical assessments are not the way we want to go. You know, if you think about Bloom's taxonomy, at the lowest level, there's repetition. 2 + 2 is equal to 4. And at the highest level, there's critical thinking. And I think that we probably want assessments that really look at critical thinking and analytical thinking, where academic integrity is not an issue, because the personalized answer is the one that will be important, and any plagiarism in that personalized answer can be very easily found out. But John, you want to take a crack at it? Because I know you've been thinking about assessments and we've had some rich conversations, and then maybe we'll go to Mike and then to Steve.
Sure. I think in the context of what we've been trying to achieve with what we've been describing as the pivot, is bringing to the students a much richer experiential opportunity. And I know that that's been true also at the graduate level as well. As you say, at the end of the student's academic journey at McMaster, the assessment that people give of them is one, to look at the grades, but more often to interview and to discuss with them what they have achieved during the course of their time at McMaster. What the pivot does to me is it gives students many more opportunities for achievements. And our students have achievements that are in classes, and they have achievements that they achieve outside of classes. And so a McMaster engineering student can often talk. Even now we have remarkable students who can talk about 7, 8 different kind of things they've achieved, impressive things they've achieved, and can talk at length about how they made those achievements. That will become much more typical for a McMaster engineer. And I think assessing that is an interesting challenge, but I think it's one that we should embrace.
You know what, Professor Chris Anand from Computing and Software just pointed out to me that infecting 3 people is not 3%. Yeah. So I'm going to pretend that was a trick question, and it was actually leading to an assessment. And Professor Anand has passed that assessment, and it's quite clear he hasn't plagiarized. So that's exactly the kind of assessment that we want. And so I encourage other people to reanalyze my statement and see if they can come up with an answer that's as distinct and as illuminating as Professor Anand's. But Mike, you want to speak a little bit about assessments, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think as a whole, we trust our students, and we know that everybody is looking for a fair and just experience. I do believe that we will have to adjust our assessments overall, but I think what primarily drives people to potentially look at plagiarism or cheating as a whole is perhaps not enough information has been provided to the students to begin with, so that they understand how they're being assessed. I think it's the distressing events that lead students to go down paths which are undesirable for us. And I think while to some degree we will have to adjust our modes of evaluation in the future, for sure, to accommodate for this this online approach. At the same time, too, I think we should be asking of our community as a whole, how are you communicating what you expect of the students as clearly and as articulately as possible, so that they are not compelled to cheat, if it were. So that's my thoughts.
Steve, quickly, your thoughts?
Yeah, so as a researcher and as a professional engineer, I find academic dishonesty doubly troubling, right? It hits at the heart of scholarship and goes against the ethical behavior that we as engineers and as obligated engineers are required to extol. So I understand these. We're all working through change. We're all working in difficult times. I think the biggest combat that we can have to academic dishonesty issues is what we're doing is establishing a culture of scholarship, of engineering scholarship. And the fact that these questions are appearing from our undergraduate students, presumably, gives me hope that they understand the central need for academic integrity in our programs and how we support it. And I agree, our mode of education will never be the same after this. It will evolve, it will change.
Well said, Steve. What we have to focus is on creating a culture. And that's what families do, that's what communities do, that's what societies do and nations do. And that's the difference between communities, societies, nations. Some nations are democratic, other nations are led by megalomaniacs. And I think that is something that's very, very important. It's what separates us from the others. And it's an existential question, the cheating question, the plagiarism question for us at this juncture, because we've had to pivot our ways of teaching and learning. And I think exhortations, culture, education are one part of the solution. The intent should not always be to police the situation, because if we get into a police culture, that's a very different culture from the democratic, national Canadian culture that we want. And I think you're absolutely bang on target, as are John and Mike. It's culture, it's assessments, it's what we wish to hope for the future, and what our students want to hope for the future. At some point, we're going to be gone, and they're going to inherit this world. How do they want to run it? I think that's a very, very nice answer. So, John, there's a technical question for you. It's about the summer research program. In some cases, it's been truncated to 12 weeks, and students feel are anxious whether it be counted as co-op or not. So I know the answer, but I know you do too. So go ahead. It's more in your domain.
Okay, I believe well, first of all, let me give a bit of a background about the summer program, because it's something that I'm particularly pleased about, and I think it exemplifies the culture that we're trying to create. Our students may not know this, but we played a pivotal role in pushing NSERC to continue the funding for the summer program, even in light of all of the uncertainty that existed. And as soon as we got that green light, we started making plans in earnest to have a summer program that may be virtual for some or all of the summer, but that we will do this. I was on a call just yesterday where we're starting to work with the students, staff, and faculty are working together to generate an enrichment component to the summer program that will have research talks, but career and education talks, some social events going into the students who are participating within the summer research program. And for those of you who are not going to be able to participate in the summer research program, you'll be able to participate in those enrichment activities, because that's what our students wanted. They wanted to make this open and inclusive to the maximum extent possible. So to get to the specific question, the answer is yes, that you'll be able to, even with the shortened time frame of the summer program that we've been able to put together for you, that will still be able to meet the qualifications. And I think that's something you should start to, I mean, you should worry. Steve's emphasized many times that you should ask, but you shouldn't assume that you should assume that we're going to try to do the ethical and appropriate thing, and that we're going to try to make, we really do have your back in this. We're not able to do everything, but anything that we can do that can make this experience better, we're going to do it.
So Steve, one last question, because we have to wrap up.
Okay.
We've had a number of people join us on this virtual town hall. So one conclusion is that students will wake up for a 9:30 class. So the burning question is for graduating students, about Kipling and convocation. I guess the straightforward answer is we don't know. And the virus is controlling our lives right now. We can't have an event of more than 5 people in Ontario. They can't gather, and those events are, by the way, frowned upon. But the question is, for graduating students, when can they get their diplomas, their degrees, evidence of graduation, if they have job opportunities and they need to submit these kinds of materials?
Sure. So though there will be no formal convocation this year in June, there will be one in virtual format, but not in person. Conferral of degrees will not be impacted. So the chancellor will still be conferring degrees in absentia. So the conferral of degrees will happen in June. You'll be able to get a notice of that and documentation of that. There's also an interesting development, or an important development, spearheaded by our faculty that's now made it throughout the entire university. We'll be issuing digital diplomas and digital degrees throughout the university, spearheaded by our faculty. When will you get a paper diploma or a paper degree or paper certificate? We'll know that when we're able to get back in and actually produce those paper certificates. So that may be a bit delayed, but we will be providing those to you. But rest assured, your credential, your degree will be conferred on time according to the guidelines that are set aside. All the information is available on the registrar's office It's posted. If you have any questions or you're having difficulty managing it or interpreting the information, again, our advisors are available to help you interpret that information.
So I think we have just under 5 minutes. So let me go back to all of you, and maybe in a minute or less, is there is there a message you would like to send out, which is you think is an important message to the audience today? Steve?
The message I would have is been echoed many times. We're here for you. We're not in our offices. We're not in our traditional formats anymore, but we have your back. We have you. We're here. Contact us, reach out. We're available on all sorts of different media. You're not alone.
Mike, a message from you, and I noticed that there's a big question for you from graduate students about tuition. I referred to it during my first town hall. Maybe you can quickly refer to that and give a wrap-up message that you want this audience to note from you.
Okay. I believe that, well, I mean, as far as we understand right now, the provost is still addressing the question related to tuition, so I really can't add much to that. You had already mentioned that the fees for the phys ed center have been will be turned off as of I think it was April. If you are paying for parking too, that will be refunded to you at this point in time. But most services are going to continue as always before, and therefore I believe that students should expect for their tuition dollars all the services that they were able to obtain before, except online at this point in time. And in terms of the messaging, that I would just say is that I think it's important for all the graduate students, make sure that you reach out to your supervisors, to your research groups, stay virtually social. Don't give in to cabin fever here, and just find new ways to connect to your group and to stay a part of our community.
John?
Yeah, I'll just amplify what Mike was saying. Everybody is incredibly busy. I mean, Steve is working 16, 18-hour days. He fell asleep one night watching Netflix and his daughter cut his hair. But we're not complaining because our students are also working crazy hard, I'm sure, trying to adapt to this new style of learning at the end of term, deal with all the stresses that are going on, all the uncertainties, issuing their final exams. In that context, though, although we're busy and you're busy, the thing that I miss the most about being on campus are the chance encounters that sort of occur in a very natural way. And I had a wonderful experience on LinkedIn where a student connected me as a graduate student in material science and engineering. We don't know each other well, but we occupy the same hallway. And so she inevitably, if I'm walking down the hall, she holds the door open for me, I think in deference to my white hair and probably feeble appearance. And I just said to her, I said, thanks for connecting, and I really miss that. That's was something that's fun, people that you just nod at in the hallway when you're going to get a cup of coffee. So feel free to reach out to faculty members who taught you, to staff who you've interacted with. We're all in the same boat, and everybody's looking for a little bit of social contact. So it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Well, thank you all very much. I think the message I want to give is one to students, that we have your back. We know how difficult it is. We may not always have the perfect answers, but we're trying. We're trying really hard. All of us are trying really hard. There's no playbook for this. We weren't trained for this, and we're trying to also make decisions in the fog of uncertainty. But I also want to reach out to the faculty members who pivoted, the staff members who pivoted. You are the real heroes of this. You are heroes. I want to reach out to the people who are making research pivots. You are heroes. You know, I hear so many things about thank yous to people, to frontline workers, and those are bang on target. But thank you, faculty members. Thank you, staff members. You are my heroes. And thank you for supporting our mission, which is to educate citizen scholars who are going to transform the world. They will transform the world. They will not plagiarize. We will create that culture. So that's it for today. This has been fun. I should get together with the three of you more often. It's more fun than I imagined. And let's do this again and with others. And thank you very much. It's a wrap. Now go ahead and go on to your 10:30 class. Thank you.